What is poppin', y'all? You guys know I am amped for this one. I bring the heat. This is the third show in a row for me this week. I've gotten to spend so much incredible time with everybody that comes to the show. Shout out to all of our fans. You guys know the way that I roll. Change your chat settings to everyone down on the bottom right and shout out your city, shout out your country. Where are you tuning in from? A lot of us very well traveled. I love to see all the places that I've been. Dan will probably jump in first and say Houston, but no, it's Matthew Madden coming hot from Louisville, Kentucky, just north of me. What's going on, neighbor? Shout out to San Antonio, Texas. Big, they do it big in Texas. Yo, the South representing out here. Raleigh, North Carolina, Monroe, GA, Barcelona. What's going on? Idaho in the house. All right, yo, where's the international crowd, dude? Yo, let me see some countries out here. I know a lot of folks join us from India constant. There it is, India. I knew it would be there. Canada in the house representing. Let's kick it off proper. Welcome back, everybody, to the Sell Better Daily Sales Show, where we bring you daily sales advice to help you sell better. I am your host, James Say What Sales Buckley, and today you are here to talk about how to use buying signals to build more pipeline. I have an expert in the room that everyone in this room, regardless of your current position, can learn from. We launched a quick question. Identify yourself. What are you? Are you an SDR, an AE, a leader? The senior director of account management at ZoomInfo is rocking with me. Jonathan Gardner, welcome to your first Sell Better show, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
He's like, man, this guy's a lot of energy. This guy doesn't know, man. All right, here we go. Scan this QR code. Check us out, sellbetter.xyz, to find out more about what we're doing and why we're doing it. It's for you, for the people in the room that do the job every single day. And while you're there, hop over to the YouTube channel and subscribe. I think we're going on like 25,000 plus subscribers at this point, something to that end. So super awesome to see all that. I want to give a big shout out to one of our longest and most respected partners in the game, ZoomInfo, making the magic happen with us every single day alongside all of you. Excellent talent coming in from ZoomInfo consistently, like my man Jonathan here, who's going to dive into some pretty good stuff today. I want to give some predictions to you for 2026. This is something we put together with our friends at ZoomInfo. You want to be prepared if any of these predictions come to pass. Know this. So we're going to drop this in the chat. Grab it, download it, read it, look for these things happening in 2026 so that you can be prepared. This is what you're going to get today. Simple ways to prioritize accounts. Put a one in the chat if you feel like it's kind of scatterbrained for you some days and you need a way to know where to spend your time. Put a two in the chat if you are an expert at time management and every moment of your day is currently allocated. If you're that person, you are an alien, in fact, not an SDR or an AE. How buying signals actually work and why we can stop overcomplicating things and just use the signals more effectively. We're going to show you some examples, show you some things that you can start doing right away. And then, of course, daily pipeline motions, weekly pipeline motions that get you the momentum that you need. All right, let's get our hands dirty right here. Jonathan, I want to talk about signals and prioritization, how one equals the other, and how people can use the signals that are coming their way to know where to spend their time. Let's start there.
Absolutely. I think the most important thing when you're talking about prioritizing your time is understanding where do I start my day, right?
Mm,
And when you're thinking about where do you start your day, when you start to take insights that you're gaining on companies that are important to you, that you're responsible for setting meetings up with or creating opportunities with, it's understanding what is like, where should I spend my time and why should I spend my time there?
mhm.
We will go into some details of like plays you can run when you see certain types of signals that are out there. But when I think about it, it's like, are they doing third-party research on certain intent topics important to your business? Are they on your website and have we activated it quickly enough? So on and so forth. But that's where I start to think about when I think about what drives success from a prioritization perspective and how do you get in front of the right customers at the right time. That's the most important piece when we'll talk about today.
Yeah, we can identify the people that we are wanting to sell to, but there's another step. You can't just make a list of ideal customer profiles anymore. You also need signals to be coming with that list so that you know which ones have the highest likelihood to get traction fast. Check it out, man. Just as I said before we kick this off, I knew it. Account executives heavy in the room right here. But shout out to the senior leaders coming in and the frontline managers. You guys are the ones that impact change at your organizations. We need more of you coming to the show, so tell your friends. All right, let's move forward here and talk a little bit about activity and strategy. I think we get busy and productive mixed up often. And that number three here really stands out to me as a talking point because for a long time, I thought, man, I made 150 calls today and I sent 80 cold emails and I followed up with 25 different accounts that I had momentum with. What a great day. But I never had any meetings scheduled from those, Jonathan. I never really had like a closed deal from all that activity. It was always when I slowed down and I looked at what I was doing and I made strategic moves that I started to see providence. Talk to me about activity, strategy, and the difference between busy and productive.
I think that the big thing for me when it comes to making sure that you are the most productive at your role, doesn't matter if you're an SDR, AE, AM, at the end of the day, your job is to either create pipeline or close pipeline or do
Mm,
both, right? So there are a few different things that come into play when you think about it, is like the game has changed when it comes to doing research, right? People used to go to Google, click on an ad, fill out a form, go to your website, and then raise their hand and say, "Hey, I need to learn more about what you do." People use AI now to do all of that research, 9 times out of 10. So the things that you need to look for is like, is somebody at zoominfo.com? I mean, being at zoominfo.com is great, and I want to talk to you. But if someone's at zoominfo.com backslash, zoominfo marketing or intent or checking out our what websites offers an organization, that tells me that they have a specific problem that they are hoping to solve. And
mm.
those high intent pages, which are another click in your website, that is the immediate trigger of I need to get in front of this person as soon as possible because they have that problem. And then if you want to make sure you're not like busy, would be like, hey, I'm just going to go call anyone that's in my space, right? And I'm just going to go make a call. I don't necessarily have a real strong plan of like what it is. I'm just going to go ask them for time. Or you can create really relevant messaging based off the actions they're taking. And then that's how you become extremely productive with your time. And that's how you
Mm.
prioritize better. That's how you do all the things to maximize your day because you're going to the people that are most likely going to convert to the thing that you need them to convert to, whether it's meeting, pipeline, etc.
I think this is very interesting because we can segment out certain things that are happening, certain signals that are happening, like we have on the screen here, high intent signals, right? What does that mean? I think there's a difference in an intent signal and like just a standard signal. So let me give you a good scenario here, Jonathan, and we'll pull this back up in a second. Is am I reading this right? Is it like a website visit is a signal that I should probably reach out and create some conversation, some back and forth, but a pricing page visit is like a buying signal and that's further down the funnel? Should I interpret it that way, or is that making a lot of assumptions?
I mean, I think it's a very fair way to think about it. If somebody's gone as far as looking at what your pricing is or trying to figure out what your pricing is,
Hmm.
then they've thought enough about your product to be interested enough to understand what is it going to cost me if I wanted to do business with this company.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, like I would say, like that is probably one of the highest intent signals you're ever going to get. Somebody doing third-party research on the web, on topics that are important to you, that's a layer of the research, right?
Hmm.
And you got to think about it in multiple steps. There's multiple layers. But as somebody goes to a specific landing page of a product and or pricing hit, like those are must act right away. And then having relevant messaging to activate that as soon as possible is going to be the next big thing.
Did you say Captain Relevant?
Did I?
I mean, I felt like that's what you said, and I imagined like a seller with like a captain's hat on, be like Captain Relevance, almost a cape, you know?
You have to.
That's superhero. There should be a Captain Relevance out there. Now that I say it out loud, I'm like, where's Captain Relevance? Kelly Carlton has a good question in the chat. I appreciate that, Kelly. Let's put questions in the Q&A segment. I will leave time to answer as many as possible. I don't want them getting buried. So I mentioned the example, Jonathan, of like regular website like visited my homepage versus pricing page, but sometimes we don't have our pricing page listed, but we can see like multiple website visits or certain pieces of documents that they're looking at if we're using the right links, the right
Yep.
tracking. When you think about high intent signals that help prioritize your time, what kind of prioritizing are you doing and what signals are you relating to that for everybody in the room that's thinking, how do I segment this out?
I mean, my website would be the place that I started every day because if somebody's already gone past the phase of checking out like a G2 or a Trust Radius or gone to like a third party website and then they've decided I'm going to engage on your actual website, that to me is like the highest prioritization. Like that is
Mm,
like where I'm starting my day and then I'm leaning back into my third-party intent research and the other relevant signals that I'm getting. But
Yeah.
the people that have spent time on your website but haven't filled out a form, those are people that are saying, "Hey, I have actually carved out time out of my busy day to look at what you have to offer me." And it's our job, if they haven't filled out a form, to go and make sure that we get them into a meeting so we can address whatever additional questions that might still be outstanding that they didn't get from the website.
I think "Can I answer any questions for you" is probably one of my favorite openers, my favorite like first lines in an email for somebody that has been to my page once or twice, right? It's all I need to be like, "Hey, thanks for visiting my page. Corey, thank you for the question. Please throw it in the Q&A. I appreciate it. Everybody that's throwing questions in the chat, I love you. Thank you. Best audience in the world. Please put them in the Q&A." Now, you said something there that caught my attention. You said that people often are, right now, people are using AI to do research. And I think that's true on the seller's side, but they're also doing this on the buyer's side. And you said that we have to approach buyers now when we're using signals like they're already very well researched. What's that messaging look like? And I know we're going to go through some examples.
So it's got to be relevant to the action that they've taken, right? And when I think about like all the different insights you gain on a particular company or individual, that is all context to the types of messaging that you're going to create for that particular email, right? You want to address what the most common concerns are somebody has with the landing page they went to. So, for example, if somebody lands on the ZoomInfo marketing page, my email isn't going to be like, "Hey, this is so and so from ZoomInfo. Can we schedule time to talk?" It's going to be, "Hey, my name's John Gardner. I'm an SDR at ZoomInfo. Companies just like yourself come to ZoomInfo all the time to solve the following three common issues. Do you have time to meet with my account executive, or do you have time to meet with us next week so we can address which is the most important to you at this time?" Right? Very relevant information that is attached to the thing that they've done their research on.
Yeah, and everyone in the room, you'll also notice that that email is very small. That message is very small. When it's contextual, you have a choice. You can go super lean and contextual with your words and reference the trigger, the signal, and be contextual there. Or you can write them a Lord of the Rings novel and risk being deleted immediately when they open it and see thousands of words. That's your choice. I'm just saying, not everybody is interested in reading your love letters. Okay, let's move forward with some good examples. Now, this is a really short example, but I kind of want to give you the context. I want you to give everybody the context here and then talk about how this works when you're going into these external buying signals. These are like things that are happening outside of your website, but they're triggering you to mention something that's relevant to what they're searching for, or even like making the assumption that they are looking for something might be a good move.
Yeah, so I think there's a few layers to this, right? But I think the key is like I think we hit on it already is like people are doing research everywhere, right?
Everywhere.
And they're trying to find whatever piece of information they can to go into a sales conversation as knowledgeable as they possibly can, right? They want to actually be the expert before they even talk to you. So because of that, you're going to gain other insights, right? In ZoomInfo, we are able to push forward like Trust Radius page, for example. And like what you're seeing simply is this is like they went to Trust Radius and they looked at a competitor of ours and they compared it against our product.
Mm,
So what they're looking at is like what's the good, the bad, the ugly of both.
side by side.
Why would they be doing that? It's a few different reasons. One, they're either currently a customer of ZoomInfo and there's a risk signal here, and it's up to our SDR team, our AM team, in order to get in front of this as soon as possible to curb the risk. Or they're not a customer of ZoomInfo at all, and they're trying to figure out like who's going to be the best fit for my pain points, the things that I have a problem with. And by doing that, like the quicker I get in front of this conversation, the quicker I get that first meeting booked, the easier it is for the AEs, it's easiest thing for the AMs to be able to start to build out like why ZoomInfo in this case is the better fit for their needs based off of what the challenges they're running into. You start to build out what they need in a product, and if you're the first one to create those needs, you're going to win 7 out of 10 times. Opposed to if you're second involved, right? Somebody else has already created that, then you're going to lose a majority of the time.
I think this is very interesting because we often find that we are up against competitors even before we send that first message out. Yes or no in the chat. Are you marking a company that's using a competitor and using that in your messaging? Yes or no? Are you mentioning the competitor in your messaging? I think it's a very interesting play. Some people are actively avoiding it. Other people are going right for it, saying, no, I can see that you're comparing us. This is what I want to talk about and why I mentioned it. This one comes from Matthew, and it's totally relevant to competitors. Is there a way, I guess in ZoomInfo here, that our company can look at what research our intent or clients or prospects are searching in terms of my competitors? So you mentioned that they might be looking at trust radius and seeing that side by side. Is there a way to do this in product right now?
Yes, there is. So within our Copilot product, there's a few different ways you can do this. You can see things like signals like the trust radius one that was just on your screen. We have them with G2 as well. So if they go to G2 and they select your product and compare it to another company that's a competitor of yours, you'll gain all those insights through the platform. But then on top of that, you can also do custom intent topics, right? Which I think someone put in here, like what's third party intent?
Yep.
That's research that somebody's doing, not on your website. So your website is what we refer to as first party intent. Third party would be is like I went to I don't know, I Googled like how ABM tools, right? And then I click on a link that brings me to comparing ABM tools or gives me insight on what ABM is. And based off of that, it's going to spike that they're doing research on that type of that type of topic. So you could have custom topics for your competitors. So if people are Googling your competitor and then click on a link for your competitor, then we'll be able to surface up, hey, this company is doing research on that competitor.
I think having competitor knowledge is not the same as using competitors as a talking point, right? It's okay to know that they're using a competitor so that you can speak intelligently about the differences between the tools. But I think somebody said it best. Kelly Carlton said, I don't put down competitors. I would caution everybody in the room, if you are speaking poorly about your competition, that prospect is likely thinking, well, if this doesn't go well, they're going to speak poorly about us. And that is not a flag that you want to send up the poll. You want to keep that one to yourself if you have the opportunity. Now, before we look at this growth and urgency signal, because I think we've had a lot of conversations around urgency specifically on the show many, many years now, but I want to know from people in the audience, what is your best channel right now? Most people have a way to see who's visiting their websites, but there's so many other signals. We're all leaning on email. For me, if I get to respond to an email with the right call to action that they're responding to, that is like my best signal right now. So let's look at urgency. And here's my context, Jonathan. We say all the time that you can't create urgency, but you can uncover or drive urgency. Now, this is an example that you have here, and I think the urgency part of this is that they're hiring, so they probably need to get someone in place, and there's a few signals that you're using to your advantage here. You want to give some context to this example?
Absolutely. So I think depending what business you're in or what's important to your business and how you grow, I think the relevance is different within this example, but you can use it for a bunch of different things. There's any company that's getting funding is really thinking about how they're going to evolve their business over the next however many months, right? They got funding with the idea of doing something with it, whether it's improving their product, whether it's growing their sales organization, growing their top line ARR, whatever it might be. So whatever it
Yeah.
is that was part of that funding signal, which by the way, in ZoomInfo, if you click funding, it brings you to an article and it'll actually, in those articles, oftentimes it tells you exactly why they got that funding and what they're hoping to do with it. And what that does is it helps you build out a point of view, right? And a point of view is something we talked about a little bit already today. But the point of view is the relevance that you drive within the communication that you're going to have with that customer next or that prospect next. What does that mean? If I pick up a phone and I just say, "Hey, it's John at ZoomInfo. I noticed you got some money. Do you want to chat?" Maybe they want to talk to me, right? Maybe if they really like me, they want to talk. But if it's, hey, it's John from ZoomInfo, and I noticed that part of the funding you got, your big goal was to grow out your marketing team, grow out your sales org. I would love to learn a little bit more on how you intend to do that. Get them the question, open up a little bit, and then opens up the door for like, hey, can we show you how we've helped customers like yourself that receive funding like this, right? Evolve their marketing organization by hitting on different channels of advertising channels, or hey, here's how we helped your sales org become more efficient, or whatever the case may be. Like, do you have time next week for us to walk you through that? The relevance of that messaging becomes a lot more impactful when you know exactly what their goals are.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned the I saw or I noticed. I used to really despise these because they were overused constantly. But when I started using them, I started to realize why they're effective. And I think it's because it shows that we're paying attention. And realistically, when we want to earn credibility with a stranger, you know, imagine meeting somebody on the street, right? And like you meet them, and there's a lot of like body language signals that they send you about whether or not they want to have the conversation. Some people will say bye like 6 times, but the person that's like unwilling to let them go, right? Like you have to pick up on the signals and then you have to use them to your advantage. You can't just keep talking through the signal, right? But I saw and I noticed do tend to land really well with people. Let's look at another one here because we talk sometimes about internal pain signals. And I remember when Discover.org is anybody, am I dating myself? Is anyone old enough to remember when ZoomInfo was Discover.org? Or is that just me? Maybe it's just me. But this has been around for a hot minute. And it was so ironic to me because I used Scoops back in like 2015, 2016 with Discover.org. And then ZoomInfo started to talk about signal-led sales, and signal-led sales became this huge thing. And now Scoops is like on the front lines of silver spoons for salespeople, providing contextual reasons to reach out to somebody. Talk to me about Scoops and how you use them every day to create relevant messaging.
Absolutely. So similar to what we just talked about a second ago, right? Like this is like gaining insight into what the company is actually suggesting they have pain points with, right? So we are actually sending out insights for somebody to fill out a form or whatever to say, hey, by the way, like this is the current challenges we're having as an organization. So because of that, when you're looking at scoops like this, we want to think about great, what are they hoping to execute on? So, like, what is the thing that they're likely lacking on today that they want to improve? What is it that they might be running into from a challenge perspective, and how is that going to help them take the next step or the next leap as an organization? And then, how do we solve it, right? How can we help them do the thing that they want to go do? So, when I think about like what's on the screen here, like ROI and attribution is going to be really, really important. That directly aligns to marketing, right? Marketing also wants to understand if I'm doing a certain type of campaign, is it driving the results that we're hoping it to for it to? Or do we need to switch, right? Do we need to make a change in our messaging? Do we need to hit different channels in order to get people to activate in a higher clip, whatever the case may be? So when we send out our messaging here, it's going to be like, hey, I just wanted to reach out. This is John again from ZoomInfo. I'm reaching out because I noticed that you guys have plans to expand your marketing organization and execution. In return, you want to increase the number of inbound leads that you have as an organization. Based on that, I would love to schedule time to just better understand what you're doing today and how you envision doing that better going forward, right? It's not ZoomInfo, anything to do with me. It's like, hey, I would love to learn more about how you plan to get there, and then maybe you put in a link or something, you put something that also suggests like, hey, we can help you with this problem, but you're not directly talking about yourself. You're talking about how what they're hoping to do so that you can help try to solve that problem.
All right. First of all, I love the juxtaposition you're making here in language. I want to play a game again with the audience. Put a one in the chat or let me know and put an A in the chat if you are a person that is like, I'd love to show you how this might work, right? I'd love to show you my product. Put a B in the chat if you are, I'd love to learn more about you. I'd like to explore about what you're doing. I have found that I get more replies and engagement from I'd like to learn more or explore more or understand more about you than I ever did I'd like to show you something. Because I'd like to show you something, I think, even if it's signal based, right? I'd like to show you something still reeks of I'd like to sell you something. Am I right, Jonathan?
That's fair, 100%. There's no doubt.
I always make the analogy of like buying a new car. You're on the lot, you want to buy the car, you have the money, you're testing cars, but the second you see that salesperson, what's your first thought? Oh
Ron,
my God. I run as fast as I can. And I think people feel that way when they see like, I would love to show you something. Like, of course you would, right? Like,
yep,
check out these
100%.
poll results right here. What do you think about this? Most people are saying that an email reply is their strongest signal. I could see how that would be. But I think what's funny is that the second runner up is the website visit and the LinkedIn profile view. Do you do anything with LinkedIn profile views, Jonathan? Is that a signal for you?
I don't as much. I wouldn't say like for me on the AM side, like the account management side, I wouldn't say it's as big a part of our flow, just simply because we're trying to engage with all of our customers there. If somebody were to view my profile after we had a conversation with them, that is a pretty good indicator that what we talked about was probably relevant because they took more time out of their day to go look at my profile.
Hmm.
But that being said, I don't often utilize it as a way to like weed out or weed in like a conversation of like or like better uh, put somebody from like a different level in the prospecting field. That
Yeah.
being said, I could see how that could be really relevant if it's a net new customer, right? If somebody likes something your CEO posted or something like that, that's probably a good indication they took time to do that research, which is usually a good thing.
Anytime somebody takes time to do the research and puts it into their messaging, I believe that the readers of those messages or the listeners of those voicemails, they feel that, right? Thank you for, there's almost this like a subconscious thought in their mind that says, thank you for taking the time and giving a shit, right? And like, I think those are the sellers that typically earn more time from their prospects when they are able to write and communicate in a way that says, no, I took the time and I actually do care. John Barrows, my friend John, will always say like your give a shit meter has to be like at its highest, right? And that's the nature of how sensitive buyers are in the modern age. Let's keep going, but I want to answer some questions here. And while we answer these quick questions, I want to launch this. Do you need more signals and intent? Uh, if you don't vote yes, I don't know what you've been listening to for the last 27 minutes. But you need more signals. So please take part in this. Like if you're overwhelmed with signals and you're selling all day, I want your problem. All right, so here's a good question. This one comes from Corey Pelican. I think I'm saying your name right. Forgive me if it's not Pelican and I butchered it. What's the next step? So you see the signal. Do you then make a quick phone call? Do you send an email? Do you have your marketing team reach out to warm them up before sales gets involved? That's a good question. And then here's probably one that needs a little bit of definition. So if anybody needs them, I'll throw them out there. Are you dealing with, when you get the signal, are they then a marketing qualified lead, an MQL, an SAL, a sales accepted lead, or are they immediately a sales qualified lead because of the signal, or does it depend on the signal? Lots of questions from Corey.
It's all really, really good
It is
questions.
really good, really good.
That being said, my take on this is phone call wins 10 out of 10 times. You start with a phone call, follow up with an email, right? If you can get somebody on the phone, the opportunity to execute that into a meeting, there's two reasons why I say it. One, it happens quicker, right? If you get someone on a call, you can book a meeting right there on the phone. Where if
Mm,
I send an email, I might have to exchange 5 or 6 emails before I can get a meeting booked. So when we're thinking about prioritization and time, right? The thing that's going to get you to your end outcome faster is picking up the phone. So phone always wins. That's relevant in any part of the cycle, whether it's booking a meeting, whether it's trying to close a deal, whatever the case may be.
yeah.
That being said, when it comes to the next piece of there, as far as like when does sales get involved, should marketing do outreach, things like that, it's typically a combination of everything, really. Because like if you see somebody that's on a specific landing high intent landing page and you reach out to them with a bunch of emails and a bunch of phone calls and you don't get in touch with them, oftentimes that's when marketing is going to come back into the picture and rewarm them up, right? Get them to engage further on your website to the place where they either fill out a form or they engage again so you can reach back out and get them at the right time. Then, as far as like SQL, MQL, I think it changes depending on where they're going or what research they're doing. For example, I personally would say if somebody's on a specific landing page like pricing or they are on a specific product site visit, they're probably more of like an SAL, SQL than they are an MQL at that point. Marketing has done their job to get them there. So it's really on us as salespeople to go get them to the actual meeting and take more time to get to the evaluation stage.
Yeah, I think just as much as it's on us to get the qualified ones over the line, it's on us to disqualify those that we learn are not qualified and give that feedback to marketing so that we can adjust who we're targeting and why. Great example of that is some of you have a specific head count that you need at a company to be able to have it qualified. Sometimes marketing will hand you a lead. Let me know in the chat. Put a one in the chat if you've ever received an unqualified lead because of company size in the chat. I guarantee 80% of the people in this room have received those leads and have probably given that feedback back to marketing. And yet, for some reason, it's difficult to do, right? And that's, I understand. Like, nobody's throwing any stones at marketing here, but look at these results. Most people, we're going to say 44% of our voters, give or take, 42%, give or take, 89 of the 200 plus people in the room definitely need more signals. And I think signals are something that salespeople have lacked for a very long time. And we live in the golden age of signals right now. So all 80 some odd people that voted there, please learn more about ZoomInfo when they reach out after the show. Great questions coming in. Keep them coming in the Q&A. We're going to move forward. Jonathan, what is signal stacking? What is this?
This is taking different types of signals and literally stacking them on top of each other to make a stronger opportunity or increase the opportunity for you to go convert that into a meeting or a deal or opportunity, wherever the case may be. I'll give you a quick example.
Yeah.
It's somebody is doing third-party research on ZoomInfo. And then on top of it, they're also going to our a high intent landing page. That you combine those two together, that tells me they are much further down the buying journey than somebody that's just doing third party research, right? Because not only did they do third party research, find information on the web outside of ZoomInfo, they also took the time to go into our website, do further research. So when you combine those two together, that increases the opportunity that you're gonna convert, right?
Mm.
Same thing with anything else. Trust radius. If they have hiring scoops, whatever it is, you start to combine those together because it creates a bigger story on how you can go support their business.
There is a connective tissue that signals should be providing you. But again, I said it in the chat, I'll say it out loud. They didn't get that funding so they could buy from you. They got that funding and they want to use it to achieve a certain goal. The question is your value proposition related to the goal they're trying to accomplish? That's what's going to get your piece of that funding coming your way. But I love all of these. I think they're great. Multiple signals are almost always the priority. I want to point that out one more time. When we talk about signal stacking, we talk about what those signals mean and how to use them. But multiple signals is typically a golden rule for like, this is a conversation that's going to be low hanging, that's going to be informative, and that's going to be valuable for everybody involved. So I want you guys thinking like that as you come in. We got great questions coming in. This one comes from Mike Zambo. Is there a signals filter inside ZoomInfo to find who visited your website? Is there website visits inside ZoomInfo?
Yes, and there's two different layers of it. So there is companies gone to our website, and then what pages have they gone on, and how often have they been on there, and how long have they been on there. So there's like a few different layers to it. And you might filter out based off of, hey, somebody spent 5 seconds on my website, maybe not the best signal, right? Maybe not the best website visit. Someone spent 3.5 minutes on my website, pretty strong intent signal of them saying, hey, I've spent a lot more time than just visiting and leaving. So like that also can help with the relevance piece. But we also have buyer intent signal as well, which is, and we can sometimes in certain instances track the individual that's coming to your website if they fit within your buying committee, right? So within our platform, you create a buying committee, which that buying committee consists of people that you typically want to talk to, right? Or typically a good fit within the buying process. And if those individuals were to go to your website and interact, leave, and then come back again, we can then oftentimes signal to you that, hey, this individual went to your website and here's the landing page that they went on, or here's where they spent time.
I can appreciate the need to be able to separate out which pages they were on. I think there are several tools out there that if you send someone a document, a contract, you are able to then see where they spent most of their time. And I have sent emails that said, hey, it looks like you spent most of your time on page 5 where we talk about our audience demographics. Maybe we could connect and talk about how that breaks down a little more in depth. And that gets me those meetings because I can see where they're really interested. And that's the thing they want to talk about more than the cost or how long we've been in business. Most people skip right over that stuff when you can see where they spend their time. Let's talk a little bit about signal-led messaging a little deeper here. Now, this is the one that I think is tough for people to get over, and it's the first one, skip generic introductions. Um, If you used to start your emails with, "Hi, my name is," you probably have been doing sales for over 15 to 20 years. Please identify yourself in the chat. Jonathan, how do we get right to the meat and skip an introduction without seeming a little aggressive?
It's a balance, but I think if you can create relevance to what their pain points likely are quicker, the quicker you get their attention, right? Especially the higher you go up in an organization. If you're reaching out to a C level, they want to know immediately, how can you help me? Like, why should I look at this email, right? Why should I even spend time looking at it? So it's got to be very direct, but not like overly blunt in the sense of like that you're going to turn them off, right? It's got to be like you got to show you've done your research, and then you got to also be able to quickly identify how we help companies just like them, because people want to know what other people are doing that's making them successful, because their job is to make their business successful. So whenever you can correlate the two and bring the two together in a quick message, oftentimes I would say you probably want to have a few bullet points. So like a small little paragraph, a couple bullet points, and then a closing, some sort of closing sentence at the end to try to get the time with them. That is how I would keep it. Very, very short and sweet. You don't want them to have to scroll. Think about if they open it up on their phone. Are they able to see the entire message by just looking at it, or do they have to go and look, 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 look? If they have to look more than, I don't know, 5 seconds, they've probably already moved on to the next email.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, and I want to just hover over that for just a moment. Some people look at their email tracking and they look at the amount of opens that they have as a signal. Now, if you have under 10 opens, that's probably a good signal. But if you have an email that went out and it has 46 opens, there's a good chance they forwarded that around to the rest of the team, telling them what not to do. So I just want to point at that difference. You can't look at all those opens and say they're definitely interested. There might be something else happening there. Great question. And good stuff to say about signal-led messaging. I think that's something that we could all do more of, and we'd probably increase our results quite a bit. This question comes from Michael Parkinson. What are the best practices for intent signal settings? Signal score, audience, strength settings. How best to narrow the focus to ideal prospects and contacts? Love that.
Great question. If you're using our third-party intent, there's actually a few features within there that help you understand the amount of consumption, so the amount of research they're doing that's above their baseline. It ranges anywhere from 60 to 99%. So 99% meaning that they are doing more research than they ever have on that particular topic, which typically tells us they've gone to multiple different places in order to do that type of third-party research that signals back to that intent topic. And then the next one is going to be the number of people in that organization that are doing that research as well. If it's
Mm.
an individual, like one person's doing research, it may not be that important to the company. It might be important to that individual, but not to that company. If you have 5 or 10 people doing research on that particular topic, likely there was a meeting within that organization about a problem that they had, and then everyone dispersed, did their own research on it, and then they're going to come back and say, here's what I found that's out there to solve this. So the higher both those are, the more likely you're going to convert that into a meeting than if it's like very, very low level or just a single person doing research.
Yeah, what is closest to conversion is the theme that I'm picking up on with that particular talking point, right? Closest to conversion is the thing you should probably think about. We got a lot of good stuff coming in. I want to make sure we get to all of it or as much as we can. So I'm going to wrap it up with this and then we're going to get to your questions. What is rep owned pipeline execution? I feel like this, if I'm a seller and I hear this for the first time, I feel like you've just placed a boulder on my shoulders. Please make this feel a little lighter for me, Jonathan.
If you're a rep, you own your pipeline anyway, right? At the end of the day, like you own where
Hopefully,
you're
yeah.
going to get to, but it's like how do you simplify it and make it as easy as possible for yourself to get the most out of your day, right? And I think about it in a few different ways. There's like net new prospecting that I need to go do. So I need to drive net new meetings with into my book of business and or into my pipeline. Or it's I already have a pipeline in place today, and I need to make sure I'm following up with that pipeline and moving that forward, right? And you got to balance the two and where you're going to spend the most time. That being said, you also want to be able to activate based off the things that we've already talked about, right? So if somebody's in your pipeline and they're doing further research on other topics or they're doing research on competitors, that tells me they are probably very much in a buying phase because they're continuing to do that research throughout your sales process. Where if it's early on, right, you want to be able to make sure that you're getting the most relevant content in front of them all the time to get them to a place where they're moving further down your pipeline so that you can execute those deals into to wins. Um, One piece that I'll hit on here that I think is really important is thinking about it from a multi-threading perspective. If you're an account manager, you're an AE, you're an SDR, um, those signals that we showed oftentimes incorporated multiple departments, right? It was marketing and sales because those two connect or connective tissue to allow somebody to help grow a business. So the more people in that organization that are aware of who your organization is, the more likely, one, you're going to get excitement in there and they're going to talk about it. And they're going to be like, I got this email from John. I got this email from John. And both those emails were fantastic and they could solve our problems or potentially solve our problem. We should schedule a meeting with John. Now, if you have multiple stakeholders involved, your opportunity of winning that deal is just going to increase because you now you have multiple budgets involved. You have multiple things that are multiple layers of that organization that would be driving that initiative. The more likely you have the opportunity to execute.
I love that. And we know that multi-threading has become a non-negotiable in sales. You need multiple conversations with multiple stakeholders. I think the average number for a mid-market is like 6 to 10 decision makers. And for enterprise, it's like 20 plus. And who knows? I mean, for enterprise, especially if you're closing $1 million deals, man, you could prospect these companies for a year. You could be in a deal cycle. I think we get this confused where we think everybody's in our selling cycle, and we're not. We're in their buying cycle just as much as they're in our sales cycle. And I think we have to come to grips with that, come to terms with it. Let's answer some questions. We got a lot of good questions here. And Jeff, reach out to me directly on a DM and let's talk about the attachment thing. I think that's a very interesting conversation, but that's not necessarily about signals. That's about when we're putting attachments in and how they interact in our ecosystem here. This one comes from Chad and it's about intent signals. How do you data mine large companies that have come up on the intent signals side when I'm ready to when I'm already using buying groups but still have hundreds of contacts in large companies? I think it's a good question.
So, and just to make sure I'm understanding it, you want to understand like how do I know who to go after when I see somebody is doing research on a topic?
Absolutely. And I think also it's worth saying you see the company long before you see the person, and you might have
Yep.
hundreds of contacts at that company. So how do you prioritize that? And you know it's an intent signal.
A few areas. One, you can use location to benefit you. So oftentimes we have a location signal attached to intent. So if you're talking to a larger company that has multiple locations, that will help you at least identify, okay, great, the person has to be based in this location. So you can start to then filter it down based off that location. And then from there, you still say, okay, great, who are the people that are most likely doing this research that it's going to impact, right? If it's like, if you have a big buying decision, you want to make sure you're looking at, okay, if at the VP of sales, who are the directors underneath that VP of sales who are probably likely going to be tasked to go begin the research and then bring what they find to the VP of sales or the VP of IT or whatever the case may be. Find the people that are one layer below and then one layer above, and then start to prospect into those two cohorts to try to maximize the number of people that you're reaching out to.
Maximizing the number of people that you're reaching out to is going to get you further than siloing your messaging, right? You can't expect to break through to a large account if the messaging you're sending is only hitting one contact at that account. Now, I will tell you, it helps if you diversify the message and you don't send the same message to every single human being that you're connected with at that account. My big fear is that everybody's going to lean back and go, "Hey, did you get that message from this guy, James?" And then they're like, "Yeah, I got that message." And everybody in the room is like, "Nah, forget that guy," right? Like it's just garbage, and that's how they interpret that. Jonathan, I want to thank you for coming to the show, sharing your insights, talking about ZoomInfo so impactfully. I know a lot of people are going to be reaching out to get more information. Everybody needs to go follow Jonathan. We've dropped his LinkedIn in the chat. I want everyone to take part in the survey that you're going to get after this show. Let us know what you liked about this, what you want to see more of. How can we be better for you? That's the stuff that matters most to us from you, our audience. Also, keep in mind, you can follow me directly at Say What Sales, and you can connect with our company and our team directly, sellbetter.xyz. Jonathan, we will see you back here for sure because you have delivered a hell of a session here for everyone today. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great day, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow for another stellar episode of Sell Better. Go get them.